Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dragon Talk. We are here without Shelley. It is just me. I'm Greg Tito. I also have Mr. James Haeck across the table from me.
Hello. Hey, Greg.
How's it going?
I'm doing great.
Sweet. This is the first time you're doing this in video form, so I know it's hard. It's very strange.
I'm in a new realm. I have to look at a camera. I have to look at you. Last time I was just looking out into space, a glazed look in my eye.
Which was way easier, right?
Yeah,
when you're just like picking your nose, making things happen. Now we're super profesh, as Ryan would say. No, he would never say that. So we're going to talk to James in the interview today about something awesome there you and Ruty Woot and a few others are making for the Dungeon Masters Guild. What's the name of that product again?
It is Xanathar's Lost Notes.
Lost Notes, not his last notes.
No, not his last notes. Xanathar is alive and well. For now.
That we know of. Excellent. So I can't wait to get into that. There's a lot. He basically had said it's like as big as Xanathar's Guide to Everything.
A little small.
Which is coming out soon.
It's over 100 pages.
What?
Mm-hmm.
That's more pages than the last thing that you put out on the Dungeon Masters Guild.
Yeah, which was like 30 pages.
Exactly. Good. As I was saying that out loud, I'm like, this better be true.
Of course, the last thing I did was me, and this one has 5, 6, 7, 8, an untold number of people working on it.
Oh my gosh.
All very professional and so talented.
They're infinite people. But because we can't put infinite people on a mic, we're only going to talk to you and Mr. Ruty Rutenberg.
Otherwise, we'd drive you mad.
Exactly. It would just be like a cacophony of sound. Poor Ryan would have to deal with that. We're not going to do that. But we are going to introduce some fun things that are going on with Dungeons & Dragons. I mean, we mentioned Xanathar's Guide to Everything is in stores. By the time you listen to this, it will be available everywhere. It has 27 new subclasses for each of the player classes in the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons rules. It's got some traps, got some new guidelines for Dungeon Masters, as well as common magic items, which I think are super full of flavor and really interesting too. So a smorgasbord of stuff to add to your Dungeons & Dragons game. We've been talking about it here on the D&D team, how it's crazy that it has been as high as number 7 on Amazon's bestseller list for all books.
That blows my mind.
Not just genre, right? Not just even games, not just that. It is all books, number 7.
In the world. It's incredible.
It is insane. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's Oprah's on there. Joe Biden is on that list. Tons of other crazy, well-known. Brandon Sanderson, I think, was right next to us on some of the things. So, like, all books. It really means all books, and it's up there. I think last I checked, it's not quite at number 7 right now, but it had gotten that far. Maybe it will again by the time you're listening to this. So it's pretty amazing. A lot of people are excited about this thing, and the work that you guys are doing are going to make it even more exciting because there's more stuff for classes.
More stuff for people. If you are not all tired out of brand new subclasses by the time you get the actual hardcover Xanathars, then it's something like 19 new subclasses and other assorted goodies packed into that one.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Nice. Lots of other products are out there. Of course, Tomb of Annihilation, we've been talking to you guys for a long time. We just had the finale to Force Grey Lost City of Omu in Brooklyn, New York. We call that Force Grey Survive the Tomb. It was about a 6-hour extravaganza dungeon mastered by Matt Mercer.
Love that man.
He's a good man, but he went quite... I don't think he pulled any punches. Let's just say that in the last battles in there. But if you get to the end of the story in Tomb of Annihilation, some crazy stuff happens, and the characters of Force Grey got to experience all of that. My favorite bit was that the scenery was made by Dwarven Forge.
No way.
Yeah, Stefan Pokorny actually had his sculptors in town in Brooklyn for the next batch of stuff that they're making, and they made some custom stuff for us. It's really amazing and badass, and it showed up really well on the stream. So if you're interested, go check that out. It's on the Twitch Collections page, I believe, for Force Grey, and we'll be putting it out to YouTube. Probably by the time you're listening to this, it will be there. So go to the Dungeons & Dragons YouTube page as well as on our Twitch channel, and you can find the full video there. Pretty exciting. And of course, if you want to play in Tomb of Annihilation with your players, jump in. It's there. You can get that everywhere. It's at your local game store. There's great Adventurers Guild. D&D Adventurers League content associated with both Tomb of Annihilation and Xanathar's Guide to Everything. You can play that in your local store, but you also can buy it on D&D Beyond, Roll20, and in Fantasy Grounds. It's all out for everything. Some other fun stuff is out there. Is the Adventure Grid will be available for you. It is basically dungeon tiles for terrain. It's got wet and dry erase. You can put it on your bookshelf. It's kind of that nice high quality cardboard that you find in board games. Folds up nice, and you can. There's the dungeon and the wilderness terrain. So if you use a lot of terrain and minis in your game, it's a great add-on to your collection. Speaking of add-ons to things that you can use, the Dungeon Master screen Reincarnated is also out now, as well as Gale Force 9. I was just mentioning Tomb of Annihilation. They make a Tomb of Annihilation specific Dungeon Master screen that has all the information that you need to run that, as well as the marketing art pieces that we created. So there's the Port 9 Zaru image, as well as the one with the skeletons all around it, that kind of stuff. It's a good-looking kit.
The first time I was ever in this office, I walked by a conference room that had that huge image of the red dragon soaring over like the burnt-out ruins.
Yes.
And I looked at it and I thought, wow, that's the greatest D&D image I've ever seen. And imagine my joy when I saw it on the new Dungeon Master screen.
Yes.
Like, I can have it in my home now.
I know, right?
It's here.
Tyler Jacobson made that that painting, and it was one of my favorites too. So I'm glad that is actually out there in the flesh for everyone to use in their home game. It's good stuff. Some other fun Dungeons & Dragons stuff that you can pick up is, of course, the Whiz Kids Tomb of Annihilation adventure system game. You can play as 4 kind of characters in that, including Artist Cimber, who has the Ring of Winter, a pretty powerful item. You can also play as Birdsong, which is a Tabaxi bard. I think it's the first time a bard has been in the adventure system games. What's cool about those, there's 5 of them out now, and you can change all the pieces.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's totally the same system. So if you have Castle Ravenloft, if you have Wrath of Ashardalon, any of those, Legend of Drizzt, they're all interchangeable. So you can take some hacking, but they all can be used together.
You're blowing my mind, Tito.
It's true. People love using those because it's hard to sometimes get an entire D&D group together. You can play people who play more board game type stuff, or you can play solo, I believe, with the Tomb of Annihilation one from WizKids. So go check that out. That's in game stores now, as well as Betrayal at Baldur's Gate. And I should probably say we've announced something pretty exciting at PAX Unplugged this past weekend when we're recording this, but it'll be a few weeks of news out there, so there'll be more information out that Shelley, I'm sure, would be remiss if I didn't mention it to you. Betrayal Legacy is a game that is being worked on as we speak. People right now are designing it, they're developing it, they are implementing it, they are playtesting it, and that person who's leading the charge there is Rob Davio. Mm-hmm. Have you ever get to meet Rob?
I've never had the chance to meet him.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. Betrayal is my absolute favorite game in the world. If I ever say another board game is my favorite board game, then either my tastes have changed like meteorically, or I'm lying.
Did you ever play any of the Legacy games?
I played Pandemic Legacy for like one session, and then I moved, and I never like got the chance to board game with those people again.
I know that feel.
But I'm so excited.
Can you imagine mashing those two up? It's so great.
I can't imagine it, and that's why I'm so excited to see it. I'm like, how will the madcap one-shot madness of Betrayal mesh with a Legacy campaign-style game? Who knows?
Who knows? But what I've seen so far looks damn amazing. And then I've been in the room a couple times where they've been like brainstorming like mechanics and ideas. Oh, that won't work, or this would work instead. I'm like, oh my God, this sounds so great.
I'm so jealous
I can't
of
wait.
you.
Yes, Rob Davio is one of my, he's one of the few people I've met where I audibly gasped after he told me his name. Because I had just been playing, I think I've said this in the podcast before, but he was just playing, I was just playing a lot of Risk Legacy, and I met him at a PAX East, and he said, oh, I'm Rob Davio, and I'm like, Rob Davio, that's so amazing. But he has become a great colleague and friend, and I can't wait to see what they make together. It's going to be great. Betrayal Legacy, and it's coming November 2018. So you have a long time to wait.
12 months.
But anticipation can sometimes be a good thing.
12 months. That's the length of a legacy game, right? 12 months?
Yes, right? Yeah.
We're on brand with that one.
I'm seeing this all happen. So
Intentional.
Yeah.
Planned.
You're picking up what we're putting down. So that's really exciting. Of course, Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms has an awesome event going on now. It is from Codename Entertainment. It's the Idle game. You send out your adventurers on stuff, on quests and adventures, and they collect loot and defeat monsters and kill all that in real time. It's super badass. Speaking of Force Grey, there are all of the heroes in Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, which is awesome. As well, there's an event going on right now, so those of you listening to this may not be able to get this, but those of you on the Twitches, you can do that. Feast of the Moon event is live now through Tuesday, November 28th, and you can unlock a Turtle Druid champion, which is pretty awesome. But what's cool about Idle Champions is that they do these events kind of regularly. So there's always going to be something new and fascinating that's only going to be happening for a limited time. So you always want to kind of check in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, good stuff, right? And then finally, what can I end with you guys to talk about? Because there's just so much out there. I'm going to say that you should all be paying attention to beamdog.com if you aren't already. There's a countdown currently on there, so it will be revealed to our listeners exactly what they're counting down. But it's pretty exciting. If you were a fan of Dungeons & Dragons games from 2000 to 2010... you might be excited about what's happening.
Hey, last time they put down a countdown clock, they gave us Planescape Torment Enhanced. So
yeah,
it's going to be something nice.
Hey, quick quiz. What was the next Dungeons & Dragons game after that?
Oh, man, I don't know that.
Right.
But, last time...
you were a kid. You were a child when that happened.
I didn't own a computer. But last time they did a countdown clock like that, hidden in the source code of their website. What was it? It was PT_EE, and people guessed what it was right away.
It's yes, they become adept at hiding things in the source code, so I'm sure folks are already jumping into it if you haven't already, and it's pretty amazing, so you should do that now. But those of you who are listening to this, you know exactly what we're talking about, and you will enjoy it even more so, because you might even be able to play it, is what I'm trying to say.
Nice.
All right. I think that's enough for now, and let's get to some of our segments. We just recorded the Laurie Should Know segment before you physically got in here.
Oh, nice.
So I feel like we should play that one because we tangentially mentioned something that you worked on, which was the Gem Dragons.
Yeah.
When Wolfgang came by, we were talking about that.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure everyone who talked about Gem Dragons in that interview was very kind to them. Very nice about them.
Your work, especially, on Gem Dragons. Not maybe the idea of Gem Dragons in general, but we'll play that. Hey, can I say that? Can I actually call it out now? Is it going to be good enough? We're on.
Sounds like you just did it.
Well, all right, we're doing it. We're going to play that Laurie Should Know right now. So make with the bongs, the bings, and all that crazy stuff.
Here we are.
Oh, there you are.
How's that?
Good.
Very nice. Thank you.
I like to eat the microphone. It's delicious for all of you people out there. All right. We're going to do the intro. All right. That was a really good segment. I'm sorry that we talked about Gem Dragons like that, but it's an important...
inconsolable.
I think what I mentioned, I tried to give you some saving face in there, but like eventually, like if you've got too many different flavors of dragons in the same campaign setting, it can the fun of them can kind of get lost. But if you're using it in your campaign of like, oh, here's Gem Dragons and there aren't the other ones, or their introduction is somehow part of the plot of it. I think that works really well.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. One kind of weirdo dragon I really liked from 4th edition of all things was, I think they were cataclysmic dragons. They were these big force of nature beasts. And I don't know, that's just where my tastes align with these massive force of nature, world-ending threats to end a campaigin with. Like,
Nice.
if you're going to fight a dragon, it might as well not just be a red dragon, it might as well be the entire volcano also.
I'm all with that. It's... Joe versus the Volcano is one of my favorite movies. So I want to be in Greg versus the Volcano, the D&D setting.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, James, you did a supplement on the Dungeon Masters Guild under the auspices of Kobold Press, right?
Yep, that was the first big deal thing I did with Kobold Press. I think it was the first thing that Wolfgang ever hyped me up about when he talked with you guys.
That's right.
So
longtime listeners know when Wolfgang's on, we've mentioned this exact thing. So that's the Gem Dragons we're talking about. And it's still up on the Dungeon Masters Guild now, right?
In fact, when I first published it, probably about a year ago, it was 5 Gem Dragons plus their Ruby God, Sardior. And it had this one very nice picture of an emerald dragon right on the front. But because it became a platinum bestseller on the DM's Guild, Kobold Press came back to me. They talked to me, hey, we want to give art for every single Gem Dragon in this book. We want to make it as gorgeous as we can for this platinum edition. And so there's a brand new edition of Gem Dragons of Faerun up on the DM's Guild for PDF and print on demand that has art that you can show your players and inspire imagination with.
Very cool. I like that in the description of that, you actually went into a lower register that felt very Wolfgang-ish. I feel like you were channeling Wolfgang Bauer a little bit when you said the Ruby God.
Oh, yes.
It was good stuff. But Dungeon Masters Guild is actually why we're talking to you. So why don't we call up Ruty Rutenberg, and we can talk more about what's going to be up there. Sound like a plan?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
It's calling right now. Oh, my God. Is that Ruty?
Where is he?
It's me.
Ruty!
Hey, everybody.
Did you just make it back from PAX Unplugged minutes ago?
Within the last half hour, quarter hour, something like that.
That is amazing. You are either hopped up on goofballs or really good at sleeping on planes.
I could not help myself from sleeping on the plane because we were so just running the entire time we were at PAX. It was we didn't get a chance to really sleep, including we had a really late night with Roth this one night, and that it was worth it, absolutely worth it.
That was probably the most D&D humble brag ever.
Did you make your save against the con plague, Ruty?
So far, so good. If you're trying to jinx me, or if this is when you're asking me for your saving throw, I refuse.
No, this is when I knock on wood and pray for your safety.
Oh God, me too. As long as we get through the week when we can release this thing before I die, that's fine. I'm okay.
I think Perkins might be succumbing finally after all of his travels this last month or so. He was.
Yeah, we've seen him at every single con that we've been at, and he's got to be just feeling it.
What a trooper.
Like him, he's been working on some crazy fun stuff, and you guys are also working on some crazy fun stuff at the same time as traveling, so kudos to you for that. But yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about what you're making? Ruty, since you're the newcomer here, what is it called, and what have you been working on in this? What's been your specialty with the team on this?
Well, I guess I take the title of lead designer for the product, and it's going to be called Xanathar's Lost Notes to Everything Else.
Oh, so it's not just a shortened Xanathar's lost note. I keep saying last notes, like as if they're his final notes.
There's always another Xanathar, even if he goes down.
This is true, right?
So we can push him off a cliff, and there'd still be more.
Well, but he's a floating head. You can't push him off a cliff. It won't actually do anything to him.
Floating and flying are different things. We've established this in 5e.
And this is true. Huh? This is true. I guess you're right. All right. So yeah, you've been the head honcho on this project.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've got really I would not be able to do any of this without the support group that we have here, because we Intercasso has been an amazing basically producer, product manager for it, making sure to wrangle all of the extra things, because this thing is stacked. It's got a lot. We are trying to mirror Xanathar's very closely. So we have some extra background stuff, pre-gens, we have items. Satine contributed the Urban Dryads, which is a nice 3 or 4 creatures that have a nice, they blend in nature and a really awesome backstory with the city and why they didn't leave and what their purpose is there.
Right.
And then we also have these incredible array of classes brought to you by the entirety almost of the adepts, and Mr. Haeck here is our editor, and then yes. Rich, you're gonna have to do this for me because I always mess it up. I love the guy and I always mess it up. Rich Lescalafleur.
It's like he's got a dragon last name.
Man, I've got no idea how to pronounce it either.
The dangers of online collaboration and that you don't have to say anyone's names out loud ever.
Yeah, it's like learning a language by reading books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So when I talked to people about Dungeons and Dragons for the first time, it was like, it's got this word in it, and I'd never said this out loud before. Let me try it out. So that's super great. I mean, yeah, and then going off of, in case you guys haven't picked that up, the Guild Adept program. Gosh, I almost said dildo and depth program. The Dungeon Masters Guild Adept program was something that Chris Lindsay instituted back for the launch of Tomb of Annihilation. It was getting a bunch of writers from different backgrounds and having you guys working on the products that were ancillary to what we're releasing here from this office. And so this is one of the projects that's coming from the Xanathar's Guide to Everything Guild Adepts. Is that correct?
Yep, that's 100% correct.
Nice.
I love the Guild Adept program. I love seeing that gold stamp of approval of things that Wizards of the Coast says these designers know their stuff, and we would gladly share it with the world.
Yeah, and we're not about, like, our whole point is collaborating and finding dragging the talent in, because they don't have a choice, kicking and screaming for what we need to make additional Wizards stuff that just kind of hypes the core stuff even more. So, James here is not technically an adept, but I'll be damned if he's not going to come and help when we need him the most.
Yeah.
So right, and he definitely deserves a place right along us there, doing the stuff with Lisa Chen and Sean Merwin, Will, James, Cindy, Satine and I, and those are like the major contributors to this project. But the amount that this guy can kick out or kick back to me in a day is incredible. Like like every time I throw something up, like it'll start to stack, and I'm like, I'll get worried, and then the next day before I wake up, it's just all done.
Nice.
All of it.
It's the reason why I'm almost happy I wasn't at PAX Unplugged this year, because if I had tried to edit 15 subclasses while I was also at a gaming convention, I would have lost my damn mind.
It would have extended the development process for this immensely, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh, that's cool. Well, I love what Chris Lindsay has done. It's less about even that stamp of approval and more just about like making sure that you guys are collaborating. I think that that's really been working well. Is like, oh, yeah, and then it's interacting with the stuff that we're producing out there now, too. So it doesn't feel, I think when the Dungeon Masters Guild first started, there was a lot of awesome stuff on there, but it felt disparate, and so this is the stuff that's like, what is in line with what we're doing here. And it's like, I think what Chris Lynn described it as like the first day DLC of like, here's stuff that's in the if you're excited about this product, here's stuff that creators in the Dungeons and Dragons community space are doing and creating to give you more choice.
Yeah, and the DLC metaphor is very apt because when I like to get DLC for video games, I like it to be a very meaty supplement. Like if I went and played Skyrim, and that full game is massive, of course, it's hundreds and hundreds of hours, and its DLC is another solid like 50 hours of gameplay for every pack you buy. For sure. And it's not a little one subclass sort of thing. Xanathar's Lost Notes to everything else, the full title eludes me. Xanathar's Lost Notes is, it's more than 100 pages of new subclasses and monsters, and even a couple adventures that I managed to sneak in there sort of at the last second.
Oh, no way. There's adventures too? Really? Wow. Oh, yeah.
Well, so we made it. It was really important to me when I brought James on, especially because James has, for anybody that doesn't know, he has quite a bit of experience writing campaign stuff for Tal'Dorei, and then also doing a couple of other larger hard copy things that are going to be coming out from you guys here in the future. And I thought it was really important for this to have a little bit of that marriage from, like, we get in a lot of our books that if you would like to drop somebody in from here, you can say they got here through this path or they did this one. Well, James has actually gone through and written 3 back-to-back adventures that bridge the gap or put you back on the ship or what have you there to get you from Cholt to wherever the hell we're going next. But nobody else gets to know that because that's you'll have a better idea when we get a release going.
For sure.
And one of the things I'm also really excited about for this one is that we've got some old favorites. So there's stuff that people will recognize from the older editions coming through for everything from warlocks to paladins to fighters, and even some really cool new kind of mechanics that we've been introducing, as far as like using hit dice as a commodity you can spend at some other time besides a short rest.
That's cool.
Hey, Rudy, what are some of your what are your top 3 favorite subclasses of all your children in this book? Which are your favorite?
And why?
Yeah.
And rank those 3 also as your most favorite and least favorite.
Okay, but you better be ready to do the same thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
don't play, you know. Well, so I'll start off with one of my favorite ones from the gate. Is not even my own. It's Lisa Chen. She's got this Chaos Warlock, and I think that a Chaos thing is an incredibly hard thing for a designer to do and not make it feel either broken or like wild magic is something that takes a long time to balance, and it's something that can be very scary for other people sitting down at the table. So how do you make something that is pure chaos and has patrons from Limbo and Pandemonium, but doesn't destroy your group and still gives you some wacky fun stuff to play with, you know? So she did such a great job coming with that, and it started off in a place where we could take and look at it and say, okay, this is so close. What are we playing with next? How do we get this to match that, but also give it something different that we don't have yet? None of the classes that we have feel like anything else, and that's when we were designing. We were very much like, what are we missing, or what niche could be there?
Cool. So there's Chaos Warlock. What's another one?
Next one would be probably the Illrigger, which is a callback to I think 2nd edition.
Illrigger?
Yeah, the Illrigger, or you could call it the Path of Purgation.
Very bad paladin.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm. Sort of domination.
Worse than a Blackguard?
He's very Blackguard-esque. I think it was like early on, but the thing about the Blackguard is it's all about like doing it on your own and like going in it, and the Illrigger is about rigging the situation for ill, and all of the stuff that they handle is like how to get more followers to work in sequence with you, how to get your group to do things for you, etc.
Oh, so it's like an evil warlord?
Tyrannical, autocratic, yeah.
In a way, yeah.
I like that.
And this one was brought to me, I started doing this one for Koval, for the Stream of Annihilation.
Oh.
And fell in love with the idea of it, because right now, as far as like evil paladins go, we just got one, but the one before that we had the Oathbreaker, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
But this is not an Oathbreaker. This is somebody who very strictly adheres to what they're doing and who they're working for, etc. The lawful is very strong here, so it was something that I thought was an interesting take on that, and it kind of like rounds out our 3 happy-go-lucky paladins.
Well, and that's interesting too, right? Because there are, you have your idea of what the good paladin is, and it's kind of this archetype. But then there are a few other, archetypes of a paladin out there, like the nature paladin, or whatever, what have you. And there, for the longest time, there was always just the Blackguard was like the one evil paladin, right? So it's nice to have some different flavors there. Have some rogue-like or persuasion type abilities. Is that in the Illrigger?
Yeah. Well, way back when in old Dragon magazine, there was some article in the 2nd edition days that was like paladins for all 9 alignments, and they all had special names.
Oh, yeah.
And lawful good was paladin, and down here at lawful evil you had the Illrigger. So this is a name with a lot of history and a lot of like lore behind it.
Nice.
And so it's great to bring that back.
For sure. Right. Yeah. We
So
to bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before I answer my third one, I want to hear what James has as a couple of options here that he likes, so that I don't overlap them.
Oh, okay.
All right. So you got your top 2 from Rudy.
Is your third the number 1 favorite? Should I start from runner up and go to best? Okay.
Something like that.
Okay. I love the Fey Sorcerer, the Fey Sorcerer's Origin, because in the Player's Handbook, we got this very cool thematic dragon bloodline. You've got the blood of dragons in your veins, and I always loved that idea of really leaning into that sorcerer class fantasy of magic in the blood. And the wild magic was cool, but it didn't scratch that itch for me. So I love seeing the blood of the Fae returning to the source. We're drawing your magic from an archfae's power somewhere down your bloodline. It's very very tricky, and it has this strong nature theme, which is something I don't think I've ever actually seen out of a sorcerer. I've seen it out of clerics with their nature domain. I've seen it out of druids, of course. I've even seen it out of paladins with Oath of the Ancients. But with sorcerers, that's something new, and it's something exciting. And that's always what I'm looking for in new classes. It's something that I hadn't thought of before.
Right, a new archetype.
Yeah, something that pushes the boundaries a little bit. Which might be a little ironic because the next thing I'm going to say was one of my favorite classes from 3rd edition, which is the Beguiler. The wizard tradition now of the Beguiler is this very tricksy wizard. I guess I'm talking all about the tricky and subterfuge classes.
This means
in this
something
one.
about you as a person.
I guess it does. I'm going to shatter that expectation with my number 1, though. I'm going to really blow that all to hell. But the Beguiler is all about being basically Gandalf meets James Bond. You're a wizard secret agent when you're a Beguiler.
Oh. That's a cool way
Because
to play it.
we already have the enchanter, who's very much about the charming of things and making them, float in, like having you do their bidding. And then there's the illusion who tricks you that they're not actually there doing the bidding. So where's that middle ground? And we notice that the Beguiler from older editions is very much like the arcane trickster. It's very, very much rogue. But what we don't have is the opposite end of that. Like, what are you going to do when you need to play a game of just wizards? And now nobody can pick a lock because their fingers are all, filled with ink and stuff. So this kind of gives us a better option for that. That's fun and fits in along the lines of the War Wizard or the War Mage and the Blade Singer.
Yeah.
Neat.
There are a lot of subclasses in this book that feel like one class inheriting a bit of flavor from another one. There are some other cool ones in there that there's a barbarian that gets some sorceress background, kind of to expand the ranks of classes like the Eldritch Knight and the Arcane Trickster in ways that you get a little taste of something different without having to delve into the multi-classing variant rules.
Yeah.
So,
that makes sense.
yeah,
So it's
if
like a
you've-
mixing it's like you're multi-classing, but you're getting all the benefits without having to do the negatives of multi-classing.
So, and also if you've got like an all-bard party like Satine's got in Sirens of the Realms, you could take a subclass that imbues your bard with a little bit of extra something else without having to go the multi-class route.
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool. All right, what's your number 1 then, James?
Okay, my number 1. Hey, Rudy, do you want to take number 1 first?
No,
Okay, it's fine. I actually knew what it was. I didn't need to think about it. This one is all new. It's got nothing from the past. It's not one of those splashy classes I was just talking about. This is the Rune Guard. It's called Rune Guard, right, Rudy?
yeah.
Rune Guard. I thought it was like Rune
You're the
Lord.
editor. You should know this.
I have so many subclass names in my head right now. I've got like 30 of them. No, but the Rune Guard is a magical fighter archetype, but not in the way you would expect. When I was looking over this one, I went back to Storm King's Thunder and thought about all the cool things that runes could do.
Yeah.
I also went back to Skyrim and I thought about the dragon shouts in that game, how this the power of language and writing and speaking can affect magic upon the world.
Right.
And so the Rune Guard is actually a pretty mechanically intensive class. I like a good balance of that. One of the reasons I love 5th edition over sort of more story-focused games and over more mechanically focused games is because it strikes an even middle ground. And the Rune Guard has you pick from almost like a spell list of different runes. And not only do you pick individual ones, but you can combine runes to make all new admixtures of their effects.
So it's almost like a new magical subsystem.
It's a new magic subsystem, and it fits.
That's one of the ones that we were talking about.
Yeah, and it fits perfectly into that runic fantasy of Storm King's Thunder. If I ever play that campaign again, I'm going to definitely play a Rune Guard in it.
Nice. Are the subclasses that you guys have been talking about, are they restricted by race choices? Like, guys, the Rune Guard seems to be like a very a dwarven type thing, like or giants. Maybe only people who have giant blood can use them, or something like that. But are you guys using that in Xanathar's Lost Notes?
I don't think so. We aren't. No.
One of the
you want
things
to take
we
this
wanted-
one, Rudy? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. One of the things that we wanted to make sure was that the Blade Singer is one of my favorite classes.
Yeah.
Regular elves are very regular to me. I would rather do something else. But if I'm going to go play Adventures League and I want to play my Blade Singer, I'm restricted to that. And I didn't feel like really any of these had one that was specific. I don't mind, like back in the day when they used to be favored class this or something like that. But to me, it's like I want people to be able to experiment with these options from anything from Volos or anything like that. Plus, what if I put the Bugbear were the only one who could be a survival domain cleric? Like that, sure, I guess, but then that's taking it away from a lot of other people. Yeah, but
like that
the Rune
philosophy.
Guard's great. It's got that whole, it's got a whole new kind of system for how to do that, and that's one that we agonized over for days to figure out how we were going to make that work. Same thing with the Shair from one of the older books in second edition. But my favorite, I think my final one is kind of a tie. And
Cheater.
Right, but it's because we have this this really awesome Bard's great. Bards are freaking great. And we've got this glamour bard, right, that comes through, and they're like the rock star, like, you've got David Bowie and whatnot. But what are you doing for the people who want to be punk rock, for the ones who want to buck the system, the ones that want to slap somebody in the back of the head with their guitar? That's where we're going there with the Discord bard.
Discord, baby.
Yeah, and it's all about jumping into the fray, getting in there, and then playing wicked awesome solos that just make your team around you that much better and reduces like the other people, because they're not used to listening to that kind of music, but your team has probably had just about as much as they can take without topping it off.
All right, so I'm getting like a mix between Rat Queens and the flamethrower guitar guy from Fury Road.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes, Fury's Road. And this one is inspired by a friend of ours that I made this one for, Taliesin Jaffe from Critical Role.
Nice.
Yeah, when he came on our show, he was like, this is kind of like, I kind of want to do something like this. And I was like, well, this is what I have so far.
Right.
How does that feel for you?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Taliesin would love that.
And then the tie on that one really comes down to the Bard of Keys because of the wordplay that it has to do with. I really love the idea that you have a bard who's already the jack of all trades, but is never the master of any of them. And so one of the things that they don't really get to tamper with that much is like the idea of locks and wards. A lot of those spells are not on their spell list. So what do you do when you don't have the bard? They don't show up that day. They get a root canal, or I'm sorry, what do you do when you don't get the rogue? They have a root canal, or they're off. They get caught and they're behind jail. This bard's
root canals canon in D&D? Do we?
You said one thing that made me think the rogue's player, but then you said another thing that made me think the actual rogue, unless your player's in jail. I guess that's possible.
Don't rule it out. It's a rogue.
It does make sense.
So, but this one, like, he gets to sing to the locks and the mechanisms and the apparatus, and that, to me, opens a really interesting space for RP. Like, I love to make my bards sing for things, and I love to sing back and respond to them. So, what kind of a song would a lock sing back to you?
One that's very orderly, perhaps. Very like a chant.
Yeah, maybe.
I am a lock. I will not let you pass.
Yeah.
There you go.
That could be it.
That's what I'm going to sing to the lock, and then it'll make it open, right? All right, I liking this. Does the actual play on words of the keys actually figure into this subclass at all? Like, do you know? Can you? This is the bass clef key.
Well, you know that I am a lover of puns. Maybe you don't know that. You will soon.
Most people are, except for weirdos. Looking at you, weirdos in chat who are doing a whole bunch of tree puns earlier. Thank you for that. You're good people. You are good people.
But this gave me carte blanche to make sure that there were just this subclass was rife with music, key, lock, puns, just everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and bards are a class that can take that, right? Like, if I made a warlock class that was all goofy and punny, I might, like, think twice about that, but bards... No, bards. That's what bards deserve.
That's their bread and butter.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. When I did a 4th edition version of a bard way back in the day, there's the flavor text with each power in 4th edition, and I was like, I'm going to make these full on jokes. Like, this is not D&D flavor. This is like full on like things to annoy your dungeon master.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was I was talking to Intricasso at PAX, and we were really talking about the deadline here that we had put on ourselves for this thing. And we got to a moment where we were like, well, what would you drop? And we kind of looked at each other, and he's, yeah, nothing. I can't. There's not a single one of these things I want to drop. I'm so excited for all of these.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so
it's super excited. We even were able to give monks a good amount of love, and the wizards, which we only got one wizard archetype in this latest one, and the beguiler is great. We've got the mage hunter in there from some of the earlier Tomb of Annihilation stuff, but we've even found a way to really give them a solid option to live there instead of the thaumaturge until they get that done. One that basically takes evocation magic and turns it into a healing remedy.
Love it. Good stuff. So you mentioned the deadline. When is this going to be available on the Dungeon Masters Guild? Xanathar's last notes. Lost notes, not last. Damn it.
Of everything.
Last notes of everything. No, damn it. I did it wrong again.
Take a third.
The lost notes of everything.
There you go. Of everything else.
Of everything else. God dang it. All right, I'll let you guys say the product name from now on.
Okay.
I'm off.
There we go.
We were just talking about that earlier today, and we're going to say that it will be a Thanksgiving weekend release.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's a pretty big window.
We'll
good
probably
for the-
after Thanksgiving, so that we don't have to compete with people meeting their families and all of that.
Makes perfect sense.
I'm going to play D&D over Thanksgiving, but I assume I'm kind of in the minority with that one.
I'm going to play a D&D session where we go into the turkey and try to kill it from the inside and roast it and season it all from the inside.
That's amazing.
I'm stealing that.
I just made that up right now. So, all right, I'll be a Gilded Adept next year. Do we know what a price point is going to be at? Or are you guys going to do? What are you guys going to do?
Go ahead.
Okay. It's gonna be it's probably gonna be like a 130-page PDF, and we're gonna sell it for $25.
All right.
This is sort of the equivalent of Encounters in Port Nyanzaru from last season's Guild Adepts program,
Right.
which was this absolutely massive thing of adventures and encounters and all that stuff with a little bit of like player options sprinkled in. This is the inverse. This is player options sprouting out of every ear, and then a little bit of cool adventure encounter stuff sprinkled in.
Awesome. All right, that makes sense. And this is for folks who loved everything in Xanathar's Guide to Everything and just want more options to be able to give their players. It sounds like from what you guys have been describing, you said there's 17 new subclasses?
Oh, there's more.
Yeah, there's more than that. It's not the same amount as Xanathar's Guide to Everything itself, but it's real close to that.
Nice. All right,
Yeah.
so 20
We're
plus.
teetering on the 20
Yeah.
plus. We may have 25 by the end of it, but we're getting close. And I'm at the moment where I'm like, well, if we don't hit if this one doesn't make our cut soon enough, it's not going in.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
that's-
Well, I think that's totally worth it. I think you get a wealth of content from folks who make good stuff. Are any of these subclasses being used right now on streams or things? Like you mentioned a couple of times that these were developed in conjunction with streamers and stuff that people might know.
That's a good question. Rudy, you would know better than I.
Yeah, well, I do know that the druid, the spirit lord, is going to be working its way into one of the sirens' repertoires, and we have the Chris Lindsay when he plays in Eberron with us. He's usually playing the Bard of Keys. With Taliesin reprises his role, it'll be Discord, and then. I do know that we did have the Divine Herald, which is the rogue, kind of like the equivalent of the 4th edition Seeker.
No one
that was
expects
in
the
there
Spanish
before.
Inquisition.
Right. The Monk of Atonement is played by our friend and Game of Thrones alum, Eugene Simon.
Oh, wow.
And the Dragoon, Zach Smith, another big, and also Kim Horcher in our new Fury's Fate game that's running right now. So we've got a lot of these that are hanging out, and other people love playing them, and that's really why they were built. So there's a lot of stuff in here to play with.
I love that. I love that you guys were, it's not really playtesting. It's more just like, here, this was made for a specific thing, and then let's refine it and develop it and make it into something that makes sense to be in a PDF.
And share
Yeah.
this well-played, well-loved creation with the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's I forgot 2 of them from some of our favorite little wizards, cronies down there. Travis Woodall and Bill Benham play Sacred Kin and Red Reaver Paladins, or sorry, not Paladins, Barbarian Halflings together. they're amazing.
Good guys.
So that's the sorcerer's option that he was talking about earlier, and then also the Red Reaver is a kind of like siphoning blood for hit dice in a way. So
your own blood or other people's blood?
Well, it depends on if you keep up your side of the bargain with your barbarian, your rage.
This is one of those cool new mechanical in-depth classes that we've been talking about, where you can channel your hit dice into more than just keeping you alive. Actually, into keeping other things dead. That's what you're channeling it into.
Nice. But does it involve actual like bloodletting on your own?
I think we leave that up to the player to decide.
It's like a flavor thing.
Yeah.
Well, if
Do we?
you don't, so here's one of the things: is if you are a barbarian and you do not hit something or you do not take damage at the end of a round, you lose your rage. So one of the things in this one is if you are using one of your features that allows you to siphon life from something when you hit it, and you fail to hit something, or you have not been hit, the thirst for the blood ends up taking away some of your hit points as well.
Interesting. So a couple of questions here on the in the chat here that I think makes a lot of sense. I want to make it out there. So will this be Adventurers League legal, the stuff you guys are doing in here for these subclasses?
That's a Rudy question.
Yeah. So as always with Adventurers League, after we put it out, it goes through a review. I do know that the line for class stuff is very small.
Yeah.
I would say that the line for the adventures, like what he's going to write, or some of the other things like the backgrounds and whatnot, those are probably, I would say, hopefully will become AL legal.
Yeah.
But the other ones, I do know that there are things that after they go through a review, Chris Lindsay will take a look at them. He'll probably take them to Crawford and have a little gaze and be like, okay, this one will work, or this one won't, or this one will be something like the way the Death Domain Cleric worked, where we could give out special certificates for them if people wanted them for different AL games or events or things like that.
Right.
So, but we did a lot of work on making sure these things were balanced and made sure that they had a good flavor that didn't take away from any of the other classes. There were sometimes we had like an option in there that was something close to one of the other ones, and we were like, that's not going to be a thing. We're going to take that out because it doesn't look like it's kind of steps on somebody else's toes, and we don't want that.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be a PDF available from the DM's Guild.
Right.
And are there print-on-demand options for it?
We intend on having print-on-demand options ready to go for it when it launches. It may be something that comes up a couple of days after or a week after, but they need to have. But you don't have to buy it again because it'll be an update that comes with it, and anybody that purchases it will get that eventually.
Sweet. All right, cool.
I'm glad Rudy knows this logistical stuff because I'm so focused in the words of everything. I'm lost in there.
Well,
Good
and
to
this
know.
was James. Yeah, James Intricasso was really our project manager for a lot of these things, and I was so in the weeds with it, and then James, Joey here, was doing the same thing with me that I was just like, we can't. I need somebody else to take care of this, and James has been wonderful at wrangling the other content from other creators and these little logistics questions and running them by me so that I could look up from the words for a second, say yes or no, and then look back right down and get working again.
Nice. And shout out to James Introcasso. I think we had talked about having him on this podcast. Might have still worked, but I think having 3 call-ins would have been a little bit crazy.
Been a lot, yeah.
Exactly. But he's here in spirit.
Yeah, and I think there's room maybe for him and Rich Lascafleur to get in and have a conversation about how they wrangle those things. If this thing becomes some sort of success or something, if we sell a copy or two.
Yeah, I would love to, and I would also love to figure out, ask more questions after this is already out, and I can take a look at it and be like, oh yeah, what was this, and that there's definitely more I want to ask because there's feels like there's a lot of stuff here. I feel like I had one more question I wanted to ask. Oh, right. So someone in the chat, Stabby Rogue Games, mentioned D&D Beyond. I know it'll be a heavy amount of work, but would you guys be putting this into the homebrew section that people could then subscribe to? Is that something that's on at least the docket?
So I had a conversation with Adam Bradford while we were at PAX, and the we were talking about what better ways to synergize some of those things, and this could possibly be one of those things that goes in there that they will put in. And obviously, if it becomes a fully legal, or any one of these classes becomes legal, it'll go in. But as a homebrew option, yeah, I think it would be an interesting thing for us to be able to get in there. And I think that because of the adepts, like, the Wizards has been very, very upfront as far as the DM's Guild goes with, like, we want to look stuff, we want to get things in there. To my knowledge, so far, none of the subclasses from anything in the DM's Guild has made a cut for it. But I think that something coming from the adepts specifically has a good shot at opening that floodgate for everyone else too, because you got to have that first nail in the coffin before you can get the rest of the lid down.
Well, I think also, the homebrew options within D&D Beyond are pretty robust for you being able to add things in there. I think. I may not be wrong. Maybe we have to get Adam in here to really talk about that. But I think there's ways for it to be in there now. Maybe not subclasses, though. Maybe that's just for items and spells and monsters, which are more of a discrete thing. I think that's maybe with subclasses, that's actually much harder to implement. So now that I'm saying it, I'm talking myself out of it, and it is impossible, and it will never be done.
Well, but here's the other thing: is I know that racial options aren't in there that you can homebrew. For instance, the Grung, even though it is quasi, available through Wizards, is not one of the options. And I know that we have a few racial options in here for some more Fey type oriented things, and we wanted to make sure. I went through and I looked at first, so that was part of the conversation with Adam, was about, like, well, what about Grung? What about these? What about this? And we'll see. We can all be hopeful, right, and hope that this stuff becomes a fad.
But for now, the short term, probably not. Maybe in a long term situation, might open itself up once we get more along there. But that makes sense. Good question for sure. I feel like I need to follow up with Satine's urban dryads, because I love the idea. Rangers and barbarians always have that, like, nature domain thing out in the wilderness, but I love the idea of the urban ranger and the urban druid and the urban dryad. Makes total sense, because every city in human history has trees in it.
Yep.
Right. Every city has been, like, and they pay attention to them, they manicure them, and so trees are a very vital part of all human cities from history. So of course they would have spirits within them.
I basically just finished editing that one a night or two ago, so it's fresh in my mind, and I love the concept. It's pretty simple on its face. It's dryads that live in parks and between the cracks in paving stones. There's 3 different types of them. There's this little sproutling dryad that will crawl into the cracks between paving stones and bricks, and they'll be little messenger runners between more powerful dryads. But they are like a dryad in a forest is bound to a tree. It lives within that tree in myth. These little sproutlings are sort of bound to a neighborhood, and so they have this little society in between this one street, and they'll pass information from one end to the other.
Love that.
And one tier up from there is the urban dryad, the namesake of this bit, and they are much more like normal dryads you would see in the Monster Manual, for instance. But instead of being bound to trees, they could still be bound to trees. We've got a nice sort of central park location, Waterdeep City of the Dead, perhaps.
Right.
They can also be that big curtain of hanging ivy on a building. When I was in college, my theater building had this giant thing of ivy, so every time I look at that, I think, oh, well, that's just a giant dryad hanging out on the side of that building.
Of course.
Yeah.
Nerd.
Listening to all of the singing and the actors warming up, and exactly.
Which makes these creatures excellent spies in an intrigue-based urban campaign.
Ooh, yeah,
you want to
good
insert
point.
some of these guys into Waterdeep, you have an urban campaign on your hands. If you need secret information, if you need secret agents, you just find some way to get into the good graces of the urban dryads, and you can do that by interacting with the third and final one, an elder dryad. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rudy, but every city has only one elder urban dryad in it. They're sort of the master of the domain, and they are bound to the city itself. Because in the lore of these creatures, they are dryads that were once in a forest that was razed to build the city. And so they are still bound to the land and they live within it. And many actual mortals, humanoid creatures, will make deals with these dryads because they have incredible power.
Yeah.
A city may be made of stone and metal and glass, but it's still built on the earth and it still has trees in it. So if they really want to mess something up, these dryads can absolutely wreck a city block. So you want to be on their good side.
I just love the plot of them. What if they are revolting, right?
Yeah.
So what if the elder's like, yeah, X-nay on what you're doing, eh? And he's like, all right, we're going to tear
Alliance,
down.
I don't think so.
We're going to tear down these walls, you know,
Uh-huh.
and because, you know, right, the strength of the root to get through concrete is very, very possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What I love about them is that they give druids and rangers, like you were saying, a little bit more plausibility within the city. But beyond that, they give us a whole other story angle where it's like that druid and that ranger doesn't just feel like that. Oh, we got to go to the city now. Okay, great. I'll just I'll become a tertiary character for a bit. These dryads that Satine created, like these are hers 100%. She wrote these in to even have interactions with the factions. And so the Harpers...
You're not allowed to rhyme like that.
Oh, there you go. If these Harpers, you know, want to get some information or something like that, sure, maybe we could do that. It might cost you a little bit. If the Emerald Enclave wants to have roots inside the city, literally, they do now. And it's not just a thing where, oh, we're going to go out here and do this. Because, you know, one of the big pillars of the Emerald Enclave is protecting the city from nature as well, not just a one-sided landslide, but this whole keeping the balance between the two and making sure that one is not going too far to hurt the other. So the Emerald Enclave could even have some sort of storyline where the urban dryads are rebelling, and the Emerald Enclave needs to figure out what it is they can do to peaceably end the revolt.
Neat. Love it.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. So sounds like you guys have, countless threads of story weaving throughout all of what is in this PDF on the DM's Guild. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for my little adventures that are going into it. It's a trio of really bite-sized adventures, kind of like the ones you would get at the start of an Adventurers League season that Sean Merwin always knocks out of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the cool thing about those is they actually run alongside of Fury's Fate stuff. So if you're watching Fury's Fate and you buy Xanathar's Lost Notes to everything else,
hey, he got it.
Of course I did. You can actually see where the threads intertwine and who's there. You'll notice some names of some of the characters from Fury's Fate as the information threads that come in and drop little lines and hints and stuff like that. And then you'll have a clear reason to jump into the next portion.
Yeah,
because all of those characters are owned by D&D and are part of the world as it lives and breathes and spends, at least until they kill themselves.
And not to lock out anyone who's not watching Fury's Fate either, if you've played any of the Port Nyanzaru stuff from Tomb of Annihilation, or even if you've sort of followed your streaming presence here on D&D at all, you'll recognize this location and these characters. And it is a great segue from the rough and tumble jungle adventures that took place in Cholt in Tomb of Annihilation to maybe making your way back to mainland Faerun, returning to, in big quote marks, civilization. And I'll spill a bit of the beans on this one. It involves criminal factions. It's the Xanathar's book. Of course, his famous Thieves Guild has to make an appearance. What happens when a Faerunian power decides to try and exploit Port Nyanzaru to spread their evil into that famous port?
Yeah.
Well, you'll find out.
Yeah.
It's adventure happens. That's what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. All right. I didn't know that was. I thought that was a rhetorical question, but I will answer it with adventure. Well, awesome, guys. That sounds really exciting. Again, what's the name of the product again?
Xanathar's Lost Notes to Everything Else.
Okay, good. That is coming out Thanksgiving weekend.
Post-Thanksgiving.
$25 on the DM's Guild. Look for it there. Of course, you guys will be tweeting it out. So where can people find out about you and what you're doing, James?
You can find me on Twitter most easily at James J. Haeck. Haeck is spelled Haeck, and I post about all sorts of D&D stuff. there.
Nice. What about you, Mr. Rudy Rutenberg?
I said this during the con, but I'm at Ruty Woot, and I can be found in all places that Satine Phoenixes are sold, and that means that you can find us at twitch.tv/Maze Arcana or twitch.tv/D&D, where we come in and we like to play our Fury's Fate, Sirens of the Realms, and obviously Chris Lindsay's One Grung Above, in which case we see poor little grungs trying to struggle out some sort of living in the mean jungles of Chult.
I love it. I feel like I could talk to you guys for hours on each one of those things you just mentioned, and perhaps we will in the coming months.
Yeah. I think maybe James and I should do some little podcasting thing or something like that, where we go through and break down each one of the subclasses and like what the theory was behind them and how to do that.
Yeah,
God.
I'd love that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that's some good content right there, guys.
Oh yeah,
working on it. Do that on /Maze Arcana too, as a video, just like we're doing here, guys.
Yeah.
Let's use all the pieces of the buffalo.
Sounds good to me.
Well, again, thank you guys for calling in, Rudy. A half hour after you made it back after PAX Unplugged in Philly. Thank you for that.
What an experience that was. I mean, just incredible.
That's good. And then you got to cap it all off with this interview. I mean, I feel like I'm a part of that experience just by talking to you.
Tito, you are a part of most every experience I have because I'm thinking about you in some way because of your incredible puns and the jokes that you like to drop on me when I am not expecting them. And I texted you throughout it, so of course.
Yeah, we didn't even get to talk about how you went with your with the backpack situation. What was that all about?
Well, people can go back here on some of the past videos and actually check it out. I'm sitting there running a game, and Satine is across the table running a game, and I'm at 7-3, and she's running 7-4, which were the ones that we wrote for AL. And it was a pretty crazy little thing. And then you guys also hosted us when we did the improv, the GM improv, which was pretty awesome. But I don't think that one's here. I think that one's on the PAX 2 channel or something. And I think we also have it saved on ours at Maze Arcana. It's a really great experience to get to do all that stuff.
Nice.
Oh, speaking of Adventurers League, I think other than Xanathar's Lost Notes, the next thing that you will see me doing is an Adventurers League module for the back half of Season 7.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'll be doing an adventure called Fire, Ash, and Ruin, which takes place out of the jungles of Chult in those horrible, horrible volcanic regions with demons and dragons galore.
You couldn't
Is
come
that
up
one
with
of
a
the
happy...
Tier 4 ones?
Sorry, I cut you off. What did you say, Rudy?
Was that one of the Tier 4 modules?
I think it's Tier 3, but it's
Okay.
going to lay the seeds for the story of Tier 4.
Oh, the Tier 4 stuff for this season of AL is incredible.
Yeah,
like,
it's
just
off the rails. It's wild.
So
I'm so excited to get to play it eventually.
when they say AL, they're talking about D&D Adventurers League
Yes.
stuff that you can play most often in stores, but you can play it everywhere out there. And that all those adventures are available on the Dungeon Masters Guild. You can download those. Those are small, bite-sized adventures. The PDF are available there. A lot of people ask for those level instead of the larger Tomb of Annihilation 256-page books. Do you have bite-sized content? And you guys are working on it and doing a lot of the good stuff for that. So if you want
Heck yeah.
those old school idea of a module that comes in 16 pages and you can play it in a night, all that stuff is there on the Dungeon Masters Guild as well.
Even if you're not playing in Adventurers League, if you don't want to follow the rules and regulations of Adventurers League, get your friends together and just play them.
Yeah, they're just good. There's just good adventures that are all 5th edition and ready to go by people like these two fine gentlemen.
That's right. And there may be an option down the line somewhere for us to break this big book down into littler pieces to put out if there's something that you specifically are excited about or heard your friends talk about and want to check out, but don't necessarily have the $25 or $20 available to grab the whole thing, and you just want one piece. That should be something that we get around to maybe for a Christmas or post-Christmas type release.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. So you can get like one subclass for 99 cents or something like that.
Yeah.
We would probably release it per class or do it in like you get one bard, one barbarian, one like the first half of the alphabet. I don't know.
Yeah.
We haven't decided on that yet, so that's why I'm not trying to be specific.
No worries. Didn't mean to make you state it all right now.
We're just spitballing here.
You can hedge your bets a little bit, but I think that's a cool idea to have it in bite-sized format for folks who just want to play with one of those things. But
yeah,
good stuff. Well, I guess that's it, you guys. Thank you
Over so
again
soon
for being on. I know, dude. We've been talking for like 50 minutes here, 50. So, again, I could talk all day about
never long enough.
Yeah, I always do. But we'll have you guys back on again soon and talk to some of your other co-authors and other parts of the Guild Adept program, as well as Adventurers League, because there's always more to unpack there.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, you guys got to get back to work. You got to finish editing. You got to write some more. James Intricaso's got to continue to project manage, and I'll let you get to it. So thanks, guys, for coming on. And I guess that's should I do an outro in addition to that? What do you think, Ryan? Let's just call it a day. We'll call it a thing. You guys did it. You guys were fantastic. If you guys want to follow Dungeons & Dragons, it is at Wizards_DND on Twitter. We're also on Facebook. Feel free to like us there. Some good discussions going on always on the Facebook group. I am Greg Tito. You can follow me at Greg Tito. I'm also on Instagram at Greg_Tito. Like to post pictures of stuff that goes on here in the office, as well as maybe hinting at some things at the future. I don't know. We feel like we do that a lot here because there's always fun stuff going on. If you want to find out everything about Dungeons & Dragons as well as the Adventurers League, as I saw some people here in chat asking about it, go to dungeonsanddragons.com. The Adventurers League content is all available in there. It kind of breaks down, if you're new to D&D Adventurers League, what it all means. And it's in there too. And based on some of your comments there, maybe we'll do one with Chris Lindsay and Adventurers League people to kind of break down more about what that program is all about, because it's really exciting. It's a way to get into Dungeons & Dragons without having you to make up it all on your own. Essentially, right? Yeah.
And if you're a fan of what we're doing here and what we get to do on the channel, letting Tito come in here and you get to see his pretty face all the time, and then watching some of the streams that we get to do, don't forget to subscribe to the channel here, because that does help. It shows them when they go back and they look at the numbers, like, this is worth it, and you guys do want this, and this is a thing that we should continue to do. And whenever you're around AL stuff at a convention or something like that, if you know Satine and I are going to be there at the convention, there's a pretty good chance that any free time we get, we're going to be in the AL area, hanging out, teaching stuff if we can, or running games, or playing if we can. God, playing? What?
Yeah, who gets to do that anymore? All right, cool. Well, thank you guys so much. We'll be back next week with another Dragon Talk, and you keep rolling 20s out there, people.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. See you later.
See ya.
Have a wonderful day, dude.
Bye, Rudy.
Bye.
All right. That's good stuff.
I love that guy.
He's a good
He's
person.
so nice.
He's a good person. I like you too, Mr. James. Thank you,
shucks.
thank you, Twitch people, for sticking around as long as you have. That little bit that Rudy was talking about was going directly to you. So yes, please do subscribe. It definitely helps. We don't look at numbers because numbers are meaningless to us unless it's under 20 or 20 or lower. But yes, following is also a good way if you guys don't want to subscribe or don't have the funds available at this direct moment. Following is also important because you also get notifications of when we go live. But we love what we've been doing. I think everybody I've talked to, including you, James, were like, man, I love the chat in this thing. I love the community that is around this D&D channel, and that is all you. So thank
Y'all are
you so
so
much.
nice. Like, Twitch chat is usually terrible. You guys are awesome.
We're creating a nice little haven in the internet, and I just want to keep supporting that. So thank you for that. You're good people. Mm-hmm. All right. I think I've complimented enough folks. Ryan, you have tattoos. I was trying to think of something mean to say. That's all I could say. You have a shirt. How dare you, sir? Get out. He's taking it all off. All right. I'm going to get off before the FCC comes down here. You guys are good people. Follow me on Twitter. Follow James for all the things that are going on. And we will be back tomorrow. Again, no Dragon Plus tomorrow. We will be hosting, I believe, the D&D Beyond folks between 2 and 3. I'll be back around 3:15 to do some Dungeons & Dragons news before we got Dust Camera action this 4 p.m. Tuesdays. Right?
Yes.
All right. I'm out of here.
See ya.